Good morning, guys, and welcome to the third episode of Wake Up CX. So, first of all, I want to start off with a quick thank you. I've started to notice we're getting a little bit of traction in the comment section, getting some good feedback, both from myself and on the topics. So, please keep it coming, tag other people, get other people engaged in the topic. As I alluded to in the last episode, the more people that bring different perspectives and different ideas to the table, the better and more robust any solutions and ideas that we can take forward from it. So please just keep bringing more and more people in, and it will just help develop a better conversation, a better sort of structure for us to have these conversations. So for this episode, I'm actually going to be focusing it around, or rather, based off a conversation and a topic that was posted by Tabitha Langley last week. So Tabitha shared a post, and it was basically a frustration, a little bit of a rant and getting things off their chest regarding the quality of email outreach from customer service advisors out to the general public. It was basically looking at things like, bad formatting, bad sentence structure, bad capitalization, and it just presents a really low quality version to the customer, which is never good. At the end of it, once they'd let out their frustration, they'd asked us all to share our perspectives, and it definitely led me to following it along from my perspective and my experiences, specifically with the email channel, and how I think it can be better utilised. So for that, I'm going to frame it in an experience that I've had. So like many people in the UK, I've been having an issue with my energy supplier, and I've been ringing them up and raised a complaint. And when I did this, it was by the phone channel. So I rang up, spoke to a customer service advisor, reached an agreement, everything was fine, moving on. So I come off the call, fairly long call to be fair, about 25-30 minutes, and I think everything's solved. But, time well invested, the problem solved. I then received a letter through the post. Apparently, what we'd agreed hadn't happened, so I bring them back up again. And I have a very similar conversation, this time a little bit longer. I think I was about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit over an hour. But it was around that time frame. And it was basically going over everything I discussed in the previous conversation and making sure it was all going to be sorted and I wasn't going to have to go through this again. Now, again, during this call, and again at a call of that duration, I was getting passed around a lot, back and forth. And it all came down to the notes from the previous call didn't reflect what we'd agreed and what we discussed. So we went through it, and I exited the call under belief that, everything was now agreed, it was all noted, and everything was fine. And then another week or two goes by, and I have a very similar conversation with them because I've received yet another letter. And again, I'm just getting more and more frustrated as time goes on. My patience is starting to wear thin, and I keep getting led by the same thing. That's not what the notes say. And it's extremely frustrating from a customer's perspective because I don't write their notes on their system. I ring up, I have a chat with them. And then it's the customer service advisor that has to note our conversation accurately on the CRM. And it just seemed to keep failing, point after point, it just kept failing. And at this point, I'm about a dozen calls in, and I've spoken to about 7 or 8 different departments. My complaint's been raised to a senior management, and the reality is they just need to listen to the call. And understandably, most customer service advisors don't have the ability to sit and listen to all of the call recordings. It takes away from the time they're answering calls if they're sat investigating calls themselves. And I can understand that from a company perspective, you may wish to separate who can do what, just to keep things a bit more organised. But every time you do this, you're bringing more people into the chain. And the more people being brought into this customer's experience that are now responsible. So we've got agent from 1 department, agent from 2 department, agent from 3 department. Now we've got a team leader. Now we've got a complaints advisor. And, the more people involved, the more things that can go wrong. The more points in which communication can break down or process can be missed. People that can give a different opinion or a different perspective that maybe breaks from the actual process of the company. And it definitely does lead down a negative experience for me, the customer. So I'm still having this ongoing issue with the energy supplier, and now I'm moving on from that. One of the further frustrations I get is, we'll give you a call back, and I've not received a call back. And then I get an email saying, we've been trying to call you, and I've not received a call back. My phone doesn't have any records. The only missed calls I've got come from an anonymous number, and they were less than 10 seconds in waiting before they terminated the call, which 2 breaches, ringing me from an anonymous number, not waiting 15 seconds. So that's 2 more issues. So if it is that company, then they've just basically sent me an email to tell me that they've breached regulation, which really not a good thing. So again, it got me to thinking about how we can address this moving forward. And whilst I agree that there's a lot of things that you can do as a customer service advisor, be clear, and make sure that you're leaving good notes. You could even transcript calls and get them stored in the CRM. All of these things are great, but that is always then keeping the onus on that customer service advisor. It's keeping all the information on your CRM. And as beneficial as that may be from a company perspective and keeping things nice and organised, it still leaves us, the customer, in the dark. We're just having to assume that the company is doing the right thing. And, you know, with the way things are right now, people aren't all that trusting towards businesses, especially bigger businesses. So it led me to think, how can we sort of bridge that gap? Now, one of the features that we were recently introduced in Greenlight was the ability to report basically a transactional record to the customer, which in our scenario was going to be used as kind of like a help desk thing. These are the tickets you have open at this point. These are all the interactions on it. But it got me to thinking how we can apply this in other areas, because, you know, that's the whole point of introducing new functions, not just, you know, this is a great new feature, but it's how can we apply this feature in different ways and get the most out of it. So it got me to thinking, why not, when a customer's finished, making a note, whatever they're recording in their CRM, you click a little button and it just sends a customer an email saying, thank you for your call today, here is a summary of what we've discussed. Now, it would take the agent seconds. You know, they've already got to make the notes in their CRM anyway, so having them that they can click a button, it makes life easier. It gives that customer a copy of their interaction. And then if there was an issue on the next call and they say, well, that's not what the notes say, you can turn around and say, well, look, I've got an email from your team here that says that is exactly what the notes say. So please honour what you've agreed to. Or if you can't, explain why and we'll move forward. But it just, you know, shares the onus a little bit, and it gives us a little bit of a clearer insight. The only issue I can see with that is potentially that you might want some things that are kept internal, maybe key terms. You might not want to use certain jargon with your customers, but you can always have a public facing and a private facing record in your CRM. It'll take a little bit longer for your agents to fill out, but at least you're adding that step that keeps your customer informed, and they have a record of everything as well, because they don't have access to your CRM typically. So it is good to have that sort of shared view of things, I think. As I say, I'm not 100% on how we could apply this, but I do think that's handy. Just as a little note on that feature as well, one of the other things that I thought that it would be really beneficial for, not just from a help desk perspective or a customer service perspective, is if you've got that one button click that will send a note or to your customer or to whoever it is with a full breakdown of any interactions, any emails, any call attempts, all of that. It will actually come in handy if you're ever to be audited for any reason by the ICO. You know, if someone wanted to look into your business practices, having that functionality there could save you a huge amount of time in providing the ICO everything they want, which again, it just shows that you are acting in a compliant manner, and then you're always paying attention to compliance, and that is at the forefront of what you're doing, which is key for things like the ICO, who are not interested in punishing people, but it's more about making sure and encouraging us to think from a customer perspective, from a client perspective, and it's driving those conversations and those actions in that way. So I'm nearing the end of my 10 minutes now, so I just wanted to say again, thank you for all your engagement. Please keep it coming in the comments, and again, let me know what you would like to see discussed next week, and I shall see you then. Have a good weekend.